Discover how a disguised CEO transformatively exposed bank workers after 30 days of deceit. In the heart of Maple Grove, a town shadowed by broken dreams, Sam felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Just a few months ago, he was a proud factory worker, a man who woke up every morning with a purpose. Now, at 38, he battled the suffocating reality of being laid off, wrestling with fear and uncertainty. Each night, he tucked his kids into bed, kissing their foreheads, whispering words of hope he barely believed himself. But he wore a brave face, just like his parents taught him. Hard work and perseverance would prevail. They had to. The local diner, where the scent of fresh coffee mingled with laughter, became a refuge for the townsfolk. Sam often found himself nestled in a booth, absorbing the warmth of shared stories that danced through the air like fireflies. As summer painted Maple Grove in golden hues, the community clung to its bonds, finding joy in small moments. Yet, inside him, a storm brewed, a relentless urgency to provide for his wife and 2 children. Then came the call. With shaky hands, Sam accepted a position at Maple Valley Bank. It felt like a lifeline thrown his way, a chance to regain his footing. Little did they know, he was also the newly appointed CEO, undercover to investigate the practices that drained small towns of their vitality. Slipping into the uniform of a humble bank teller, he found camaraderie among his colleagues and glimpsed the heart of their customers, the working families he understood so intimately. For a while, Sam thrived, laughing over shared meals and coffee breaks. But as he listened to clients, the reality began to sink in. Stories of unjust fees and indifferent service echoed in his mind, drowning out the chatter around him. Each encounter pierced his heart: a mother in tears over a foreclosure notice, a young man struggling to secure a loan. The bank was supposed to be their shelter, but it felt like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Days turned into weeks, and with each conversation, the burden of knowledge grew heavier. Torn between loyalty to his coworkers and the ethical implications of what he discovered, Sam's heart raced with uncertainty. A decent man could feel this pressure sway him toward silence, but he was determined. Lives depended on his choices. The weight of those secrets became unbearable, and he knew he had to act. Community dialogue spilled over into a town hall meeting, voices ignited deep-seated frustrations. Sam stood among them, nerves jangling. As he prepared to share his findings, the conversation simmered with passion, faces alight with the urgency of reform. Voices rose and fell, echoing the struggles of a town hungry for justice. This was more than about a bank, it was about reclaiming dignity under the weight of exploitation. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a hush falling over the crowd, Sam steadied his breath, the truth dancing on the tip of his tongue. How could he reveal the hidden injustices and risk the friendships he had built in those 30 days? The tension in the air filled him with an electric anticipation. Would he take that leap, igniting a movement for justice in his beloved town, or would the shadows swallow him whole? The community leaned in, waiting for his words to change everything. Sam took a deep breath, feeling every weight of expectation settle on his shoulders. Faces he recognized flashed before him: friends, neighbors, fellow parents, all eager for change. Their hope was a double-edged sword, piercing straight through his resolve. Would they still see him as their ally when they learned the truth? "My friends," he started, his voice steady yet laced with emotion, "thank you for gathering here tonight." A gentle murmur rippled through the crowd, a reminder that this was no ordinary bank meeting. This was about a community reclaiming its heart. Each one of you knows the struggle, the way banks like Maple Valley treat people just trying to make ends meet. He paused, searching their faces for understanding. "I've worked here for 30 days, and I've seen things I can't keep silent about any longer. You deserve better." The murmurs grew louder, voices of agreement mingling with confusion. He could see questions forming, doubts creeping in. Sam pressed on, determined to break the dam holding back the truth. What I've discovered are not just practices, they're systemic injustices. The weight of those words hung heavy in the air. A mother, her eyes glistening, stood up. Are you saying they've been lying to us? The tremor in her voice cut through the tension like a knife. Yes, Sam replied, his heart racing. Fees that should never exist, loans crookedly designed to trap you. I have seen it. The very foundation of their services puts profits over people. A ripple of shock spread across the crowd. Some faces turned pale, others grimaced as the anguish of realization washed over them. The bank they trusted was a fortress built on the backs of their pain. Fear gripped Sam momentarily. Was he prepared for the anger that would inevitably surge? Would they see him as a traitor for exposing his own kind? Casting a glance at his co-workers in the back, their expressions were concealed behind uncertainty. Why should we believe you? An elder voice challenged, rising above the clamor. You could be just another bank suit looking to take us for a ride. The accusation struck like a thunderbolt. Sam swallowed hard, his heart racing. He could lose everything in this moment. Friends, reputation, maybe even their trust. I understand your hesitation. I get it. I was just like you until I saw behind the curtain. I can no longer stand by while families suffer because of predatory practices. The din grew louder, various people shouting questions all tinged with disbelief, anger, and a flicker of hope. Their voices blended into a cacophony, yet Sam held firm. I will not let fear force me into silence. We can fight this together. Applause exploded in pockets throughout the room, a blend of support and uncertainty. Sam felt the swell of energy surge through him. He was waking something dormant within his beloved town, a call to action. Animated discourse buzzed, ideas igniting like dry grass to flames. As the meeting devolved into passionate discussions, Sam felt a cautious hope bloom in his chest. It was time to harness this momentum, to organize, to take the fight to the very heart of the injustice. But even as solidarity began to rise, a shadow lingered, a sense that the battle ahead would not come without serious cost. What would he sacrifice to confront this beast? Could he bring the community together without tearing apart the very fabric that held them? Life continued around him, laughter still mingling in the diner, but now each chuckle echoed with a twinge of uncertainty. As people began to organize, whispers of resistance filled the space, but would it be enough to challenge the powers aligned against them? With urgency in the air, one crucial question loomed larger than all others: what would happen when the bank's wolves recognized they had been exposed? Sam's heart raced as he pondered the potential fallout, knowing he was standing at the precipice of change. Would he have the courage to lead them through the storm brewing on the horizon? The gathering shifted into an energized chaos, voices weaving together to form a web of collective frustration and determination. As Sam watched this unfold, he felt uplifted by their passion, yet the weight of his own secret crushed heavily on his chest. Gather around. He called, trying to channel the energy into focus. We need to organize a team, people willing to fight for our rights. This is our chance to rewrite our story. Slowly, the crowd settled, their anticipation palpable. Eyes turned toward him, bright with hope but also haunted by fear. A man stepped forward, arms crossed tightly against his chest. Sam, how do we do this? We've been let down too many times before. Are we just supposed to take your word for it? That familiar tremor of doubt surfaced again, sending ripples of anxiety through the room. Sam took a deep breath, pushing back against his own fears. I am no different from you, he replied, his voice firm. The only difference is I've seen the monster beneath the mask. We've all been squeezed for far too long. But if we band together, we can hold them accountable. We can demand transparency. Those painful fees. They need to be abolished. Let us start a petition, raise awareness, reach out to local media. The energy began to shift, and murmurs of agreement flowed through the room. Ideas sprang forth: community meetings, flyers, social media campaigns. Sam felt each suggestion build the momentum, each voice contributing another layer to the foundation of their movement. Suddenly, a ripple of anxiety washed over them as the door swung open. Sam turned to see a familiar figure, Fiona, his manager from the bank, standing there, looking caught off guard by the chaos inside the diner. Her presence felt like a storm cloud piercing through sunlight. "Sam! What is going on?" she called out, trying to maintain professionalism amid the wave of emotion. The room quieted. All eyes shifted from Sam to Fiona, sensing the tension hanging in the air. "Fiona, Sam began, the words coiling in his throat like a snake ready to strike. He felt the collective breath of the crowd, waiting for his response. Should he admit to her everything, risking everything they built? "What's happening is that we're standing together," a woman interrupted, stepping forward. "And we're ready to expose the practices that have kept us down for too long." Fiona's eyes narrowed, her expression shifting from confusion to something more serious. "Exposing practices? What are you talking about?" At that moment, Sam felt time freeze. People looked to him, their faces a mix of hope and caution. Would they want him to shield them from the heat of this confrontation, or did they now expect him to step forward, to confront the enemy lurking behind the curtain? What if exposing his own actions at the bank meant exposing every vulnerable story in the room? He could almost hear the whispers of dissent that would erupt if they felt betrayed by his dual life. "Sam, you need to tell me what you're involved in," Fiona pressed, taking a step inside. The stakes felt impossibly high as he weighed his choices against the hopes of those rallying behind him. Did he have the strength to embrace the truth, even if it meant risking everything? As the seconds dragged, he could feel the shift in the room. A tide was turning, and he stood at the helm. But with each passing moment, he sensed the impending darkness ready to engulf them all. The time had come to choose. Could he find a way to confront Fiona without losing the faith that fueled this movement? Sam's heart raced as he debated his next words. Would they rally around him or watch in horror as their leader faltered? Everything hinged on this moment, and with it came an unshakable truth: sometimes, to ignite change, one must first be willing to face the fire. Sam's heart pounded like a drum in his chest as he locked eyes with Fiona. In that moment, the chatter of the crowd faded into a dull roar, leaving only the weight of their expectant faces pressing against him. He could see their anticipation, their hope like fragile glass that could shatter with a wrong move. He took a breath, steadying himself. "Fiona, I believe in change. And I know you do too." The words felt like a fragile bridge between them. She raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "You believe in change? Or are you just saying that to save your skin?" "Listen, I know what's happening at the bank, what's really happening. The fees, the unfair practices." He gestured to the crowd behind him, a sea of weary faces longing for justice. "They deserve to know. We all do." Fiona's expression shifted again. There was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, softening the steeliness of her gaze, but only slightly. "And you think throwing yourself into this mess will help?" Sam could feel the swell of anxiety in the room, a collective intake of breath. "It's not just about me. It's about us. We've been silenced for too long by a system that thrives on our compliance. This isn't just some fight, this is our fight." His voice rose, fueled by the energy in the diner, carrying the weight of their shared struggles. From the back of the room, someone shouted, "Sam speaks the truth. We're all affected by this." Others began to murmur in agreement, the tides of hope shifting once more. Fiona's gaze hardened. "And you think this is the way? An uprising with you at the helm? You need to consider the risks. What about your job? What about the implications for the bank?" Sam frowned, frustration surfacing. "What about the implications for us? Those of us who can barely make ends meet while the bank profits off our hardship. I have to stand up for what I believe in." Fiona's breath hitched as the unspoken recognition settled like an anchor between them. She took a step closer, lowering her voice. "And if you expose the monster, who will save you when it turns on you?" Silence fell heavily over the diner as Sam processed her words. The tension was palpable, thick enough to almost taste. The raw vulnerability in her voice surprised him. It was a reminder that Fiona, too, felt the pressure of the oppressive system, but would she stand by him? "I can't pretend anymore," Sam finally replied, fighting back the bitter taste of regret. "We have to show everyone what's really at stake." Fiona searched his eyes, seeking something personal and profound, perhaps a vestige of trust buried beneath the chaos. "What if you're wrong?" He glanced at the crowd, feeling their hopeful gazes burning into him. "Then maybe we'll all be wrong together. But I'd rather fight than stay silent. We can rally together, Fiona. Will you help us?" For a moment, it felt like the room held its breath, waiting for her answer. She hesitated, glancing back and forth between Sam and the gathered masses, her expression a battle between her loyalty to the bank and her emerging empathy for the people before her. "Okay," she finally said, her voice steady but low. "Let's say you're right. Where do we start?" Sam felt an exhilarating rush of hope, a spark igniting inside him. "We need to come up with a plan. Let us form a committee, gather testimonies, we fly this thing in front of the media, make it impossible for them to ignore us." A wave of determination rippled through the crowd, their spirits lifting with every word. This was at the moment when they took control of the narrative, when they began to fight back. As they strategized, Sam felt a rush of adrenaline. Each suggestion, every idea, melded into a symphony of hope that filled the air. He knew it wouldn't be easy, the stakes were still high, and danger loomed just beyond their reach. But with Fiona standing beside him, he felt a flicker of belief grow in his chest. The road ahead wasn't clear, but they were no longer alone in this fight. That he turned to the group, his voice rising above the chatter. "Together, we'll show them how powerful we can be." The words echoed, igniting even more fervor, yet, as they strategized and planned, a nagging thought twisted in the back of Sam's mind. Fiona's role was just as much a risk as it was an opportunity. Was it possible that the very person who might help them could become the worst enemy should things go wrong? With an uneasy resolve, he knew they had to be vigilant. The fire of change had been lit, but how far would they be willing to go to keep it burning? As the meeting unfolded, Sam couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the calm before the storm. And he knew the true test was still to come. Would their united front withstand the inevitable backlash that loomed on the horizon? The days blurred together in a haze of planning and strategy. Meetings stretched late into the night, fueled by takeout coffee and shared urgency. Sam felt a mix of exhilaration and dread with each passing moment. With each shared testimony from the community, he could see the spark of resistance grow brighter. It was contagious. Fiona worked tirelessly alongside him. The tension they shared had morphed into a tenuous alliance. Each day she brought a new perspective, a piece of insight from her insider knowledge of the bank. But as the planning deepened, Sam noticed a change in her demeanor, an occasional shadow crossing her expression when the discussions turned to potential repercussions. One afternoon, as they sat in the bustling diner, Sam observed Fiona staring out the window, lost in thought. He placed a hand gently on her arm, pulling her back to reality. "We can do this, Fiona. We're closer than we think." Her lips curled into a tight smile. I hope you know what you're getting into." She turned her gaze back towards the crowd that had gathered outside. They were preparing to hear their message today, one fueled by hope but threaded with the fear of what was to come. Sam took a deep breath, feeling the weight of it all. "If we don't stand up now, when will we? Things can't keep going on like this." Fiona nodded slowly, though concern flickered in her eyes. "You're right. But just know that the bank has people watching, people ready to fight back. We need to be careful." The crowd was growing restless, murmurs rising like the tide. Sam glanced over at them, seeing the determination etched on their faces, a reflection of his own struggles. There was power in their unity. As they stepped outside, Sam felt the rush of fresh air, invigorating yet fraught with tension. He stepped up to the makeshift podium they had set up, a simple wooden crate. The crowd fell silent, eyes locked on him, their anticipation palpable. Today marks a new beginning, not just for us as individuals, but for our community, he started, feeling the energy surge through him. We're here to expose the injustices that have silenced us for far too long. The crowd erupted into applause, and Sam felt a surge of confidence. Fiona moved to stand beside him, her presence palpable as they united in purpose. Together, we have the power to demand what we deserve, a system that respects us, that values our hard work, she added, her voice strong, but as they spoke, Sam couldn't shake the nagging feeling that lingered in Fiona's eyes, a mix of conviction and something more. Was it fear? Doubt? Tell us what to do. Someone shouted from the crowd, and the enthusiasm swelled once more. A sea of nods and shouts roared through the ranks, energizing him further. We need stories. We need evidence. We need to show the world what is happening behind those walls. Sam declared, the fervor igniting a fire in the crowd. Fiona turned her gaze at him, a determined look etched in her features. They had evolved into a formidable team, but beneath that surface, Sam sensed a storm brewing. What would happen if the bank retaliated? What if those Fiona feared truly came for them? As the crowd's excitement climbed ever higher, signaling a turning point in their struggle, the atmosphere crackled with anticipation, but Sam felt a chill watching Fiona, her expression still haunted by something unspoken. Let us take this fight to the media. But we need to be prepared for anything, he urged, energizing the assembly. Yet, in the back of his mind, the looming threat of betrayal twisted like a heavy weight in his stomach. Would they reach their goal together or find themselves shattered beneath the backlash? As the crowd chanted their newfound resolve, Sam found himself lost in the moment, yet painfully aware that the fight had only just begun, and Fiona's silence made him wonder how deep did her loyalty to the bank run, and could trust truly be built on such shaky ground? The question hung heavy in the air, leaving Sam to ponder the risks they were taking. What awaited them in the days ahead? The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the crowd as Sam's heart raced with unspent energy. He had ignited a flame of hope, but the thought of Fiona's internal struggle nagged at him. He stole a glance her way. Her gaze was far away again, scanning the skyline as if searching for a sign. It was as if she stood on the edge of a cliff, teetering between allegiance and revolt. Fiona! He called, breaking her reverie. You okay? She turned, and for a moment, he saw it, the flicker of vulnerability, quickly masked by determination. Yeah, just thinking, she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The energy in the crowd surged again, people shouting suggestions and ideas, all of them yearning for change. Sam felt it all around him, the hope, the frustration, but also the fear. They were in uncharted waters, and every wave might hold a hidden danger. He refocused on the task at hand. Okay, listen up. He shouted, raising his hand to quiet the crowd. We're going to need a plan. We have our stories, our evidence, and we have each other. He paused, scanning the faces before him. But we also need a safe way to get our message out. We can't just throw ourselves to the wolves. Whispers of agreement rippled through the audience, and a sense of urgency brewed. Let us start by creating a social media blitz. Sam suggested. Share what has been happening. We'll gather evidence and expose the bank together. You've got it. A voice called from the back. The crowd erupted with shouts of approval, their collective voices melding into one powerful mantra. Fiona shifted beside him, her uncertainty still palpable. Sam. She began hesitantly. I'm not sure if using social media is the best route. What if they trace it back to us? What if? He held her gaze, willing her to see the strength in their unity. Then we don't let fear stop us. We find a way to keep our identities hidden, to protect each other. We cannot give in to threats. If they're watching us now, every day we do nothing means they win. The crowd cheered again, encouragement bouncing back and forth between them. Fiona clenched her jaw, wrestling with her thoughts. Then, with a deep breath, she spoke with a newfound steel in her voice. You're right, Sam. We do need to be smart about this. We can set up encrypted channels of communication, find a journalist willing to help us anonymously. There are ways we can share the truth without putting ourselves at risk. Hope threaded its way back into Sam's heart. He squeezed her shoulder in gratitude. You're brilliant, Fiona. We'll do it together. But as they rallied their supporters, Fiona's earlier hesitation returned to him like an echo. What was she keeping from him? He wanted her full trust, yet this lingering doubt gnawed at the edges of his conviction. As the momentum built, Sam felt a mixture of excitement and dread. Each cheer, each promise twisted into a double-edged blade. They were on the verge of something big, but with every step closer to the truth, the risk of failure loomed larger. All right, let us break into smaller groups, Sam encouraged, feeling the adrenaline pump through him. We'll brainstorm ways to get our message out, gather more stories, and keep the momentum alive. Around him, voices rose and fell, energy crackling like electricity in the air. Yet amid the chaos, he spotted a figure slipping through the crowd, pale and quick as a shadow. A knot twisted in his gut. Fiona, I'll be right back, he said, moving toward the edge of the throng. He could feel her curious gaze on his back as he stepped away. The figure turned into an alley and Sam's heart raced faster. Was it one of the bank's spies? Or someone with information that could change everything? He followed, his determination blurring the line between caution and recklessness. As he rounded the corner, he inhaled sharply. Whatever he was about to discover could threaten everything they'd built. What awaited him in that alley, and would it turn the tide in their fight for justice or devastate everything he held dear? The alley was dark, the afternoon light fading fast. Sam's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he pressed on, adrenaline pushing him forward. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting shapes that made him uneasy. With every step, he questioned whether he was chasing down a friend or a foe. The figure paused, glancing over their shoulder. It was a man, thin and dressed in a wrinkled suit that had seen better days. He shuffled deeper into the shadows, an instinctual reaction that made Sam's pulse quicken. Hey! Wait up! He called out, desperation lacing his voice. The stranger turned just enough for Sam to catch a glimpse of his face, lined, anxious, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. You shouldn't be here, the man hissed, glancing nervously up the alley. They're watching. You have to go back. Who are you? Sam pressed, his frustration boiling over. What do you know? I know more than you think, the man replied, voice shaking. I used to work for the bank. Sam stepped forward. Then you know how they operate, what they've done to us. We need your help. We need to expose them. The man's shoulders sagged. Expose them? You have no idea what you're asking. If you dig too deep they'll come for you. I'm not afraid, Sam declared, even though doubt prickled at his insides. If we don't do something, we're just letting them win. We can't stay silent any longer. The man studied him with weary eyes. It's more than just the bank. They have connections, control. They'll silence anyone who threatens them. You risk more than your life, you risk those around you. Silence hung heavy in the air, each of Sam's breaths felt like a weight pressing against his chest. Then help us. You must have information we can use. Something that will make a difference. He took a step closer, and the man hesitated. Finally, he nodded, albeit hesitantly. Meet me tomorrow at the old diner, 2 blocks away. I'll bring what I have. But you have to promise this isn't just a game. It's dangerous. Tomorrow, at the diner, no problem. Sam agreed, relief washing over him like a wave until the man suddenly turned and fled deeper into the shadows of the alley. What just happened? Sam whispered to himself. As he hurried back into the light, Sam could feel the weight of the world settling onto his shoulders. He had just made a connection, but at what cost? The fear of what awaited him and his friends loomed heavy. Would Fiona understand? Would she support him after hearing the risks? The images of her conflicted face danced in his mind. When he returned to the crowd, he found Fiona standing at the center, leading discussions. He felt a surge of pride in her strength, yet the doubt still gnawed at him. What would she think of his reckless pursuit? Sam. She caught his eye, her brow furrowing in concern. What took you so long? He hesitated, weighing his words. I found someone who might have information about the bank. But it's risky, Fiona. The danger is bigger than we imagined. Her expression shifted, a mixture of determination and worry crossing her features. More than we can handle. Possibly, he said. Her silence lingered like a storm cloud, heavy and pressing. But I believe it's our only shot. Then we have to prepare, she said finally, resolve igniting in her voice. But perhaps it was just another layer of the complexities between them. Did she truly trust him, or would this lead them down a treacherous path? As they joined forces again, the surrounding murmur of voices filled his ears, mingling hope with uncertainty. Sam felt a flicker of warmth in his chest, a bond forming between them, but another part of him ached with the fear of what the next day might unravel. Tomorrow could reveal the truth that changes everything, but would they be ready for what they'd face? Sam's heart raced once more with unanswered questions, with the echo of their last conversation suffocating him. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much darker truth. What awaited him at the diner could shatter their alliance or solidify a fire they'd never be able to put out. Would he be prepared for either outcome? The sun rose the next day, casting a soft golden hue over the city. Sam could barely sleep, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. Each hour had felt like a day, filled with visions of what might unfold at the diner. He wandered through his morning routine, the coffee brewing just a background noise to his racing thoughts. Fiona was already waiting for him when he arrived at their meeting spot, her eyes scanning the crowd. The old diner stood like a relic among the surrounding buildings, paint peeling, neon sign flickering, a haven for anyone seeking a moment of respite. It was the perfect place to discuss their plans, yet the potential danger made it feel like stepping into the lion's den. Did you sleep at all? Fiona asked, concern etching her features. Not really. You? Sam countered, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. Same, she admitted, her breath catching slightly as she peered at the diner's entrance as if expecting an answer to walk through it. Sam's heart raced again. He wanted to grasp her hand, to assure her that everything would be all right, yet his own doubt held him back. Instead, they just stood there, two allies tethered by anxiety. They took a deep breath and stepped inside. The familiar scent of greasy food hung in the air, mixing with the notes of burnt coffee and sweet pies. The rattling of plates and quiet chatter filled the diner. Sam scanned the room. A few heads turned, eyes seemed to assess them, but he brushed it off. Where is he? Fiona whispered, glancing at their watch simultaneously. They had arrived just on time, but doubt gnawed at Sam's mind. What if the man didn't show? Let us give it a few more minutes, he said, unable to mask the tension in his voice. Moments felt like eternity, but then the door swung open. The stranger, the man from the alley, slipped inside, his face taut with apprehension. Sam's nerves kicked up a notch as he gestured for the man to join them in a booth at the back. What took you so long? Sam asked, trying to keep his voice steady. They know, the man huffed, keeping his voice low. There are eyes on me. I had to come from another direction. He looked over his shoulder nervously before sliding into the booth. What do you mean? Fiona pressed, her fierce determination flickering in her eyes. Ever since I left, they've been monitoring me. Anyone who works with them knows precisely what's at stake. He pulled out a manila envelope, placing it on the table. Sam's breath hitched, the envelope felt like everything they'd fought for unraveling before them. This contains details about transactions, names of people in high places, and a list of threats against those speaking out. Fiona leaned forward, brows furrowed. If this is solid, we can use it. We can take this to the news, expose everything. But the man shook his head. No. You don't understand. If they catch wind of this, they won't just come for you. They'll come for everyone you care about. I suggest you leave this alone. Fiona's face hardened, the steel rising in her voice. We can't just walk away. This is our chance. Your lives hang in the balance here. He exclaimed, panic in his eyes. Silence engulfed the booth like a heavy fog. Sam felt torn between Fiona's desperate passion and the man's trembling fear. What price would they pay for this knowledge, and was it even worth it? The weight felt like a boulder pressing against his chest. Suddenly, the door of the diner swung open violently. Sam's heart raced, breaths quickening as he turned to see a figure standing in the doorway, a dark shadow cloaked in intent, scanning the room. Get down! Fiona shouted, pushing them both out of sight. What were they about to uncover? And at what cost? Sam's heart pounded as he realized they might have just crossed the point of no return. Was he ready for the fight that loomed ahead? As chaos erupted around them, one question loomed larger than the rest: what happens when your pursuit for justice places everything you love on the line? Fiona's shout broke through the air, and a rush of adrenaline sent Sam scrambling under the booth. The metallic smell of frying food mixed with the faint scent of panic. He caught a quick glance of the mysterious figure, tall, ominous, and scanning the diner like a hawk searching for prey. Stay still, he whispered to Fiona, heart racing against the backdrop of startled patrons who were beginning to realize something was wrong. The chatter faded into nervous murmurs, eyes darting toward the door. For a moment, time stretched out, each second feeling like an eternity. Sam's mind raced with thoughts of escape, but doubts clawed at him. They couldn't leave now, they were too close. But if they stayed, what would happen then? I think he's looking for us, Fiona hissed, her voice barely a whisper yet laced with urgency. Her hand gripped Sam's arm, her fingers cold with fear. I know, he murmured back, his mind a whirlpool of chaos. Desperation flared. They had to act. Sam scanned the diner, searching for an exit plan. The back entrance, he spotted it, a little door behind the counter. But getting there without being noticed seemed impossible. Suddenly, the figure stepped further into the diner. Sam could see a glint of metal, a weapon tucked inside the man's coat. His stomach twisted. This wasn't just a simple warning, this was serious. Listen, we need to move, he said, realizing they had only seconds to decide. If we can get to that door, we might have a chance. Fiona hesitated, her eyes locking with his. You're sure? What if? No what ifs, he interrupted, urgency pulling him from his seat. We can't just sit here. On 3. They both nodded, breaths held as Sam counted silently. 1, 2, 3. They burst from under the booth, darting toward the back of the diner. The moment felt surreal, like running through treacle. The eyes of the patrons felt like daggers, the figure still fixated at the entrance. As they neared the counter, the startled waitress dropped a glass, the shattering sound echoing like a gunshot. Heads turned, and in that split second, the figure's gaze shifted. Sam seized the opportunity and grabbed Fiona's hand, pulling her toward the exit. With adrenaline pumping, they slipped through the kitchen door. The scent of greasy food intensified, but that was the least of his worries. They scrambled past bewildered kitchen staff, who were fumbling to react. Outside, the alley smelled of rain-soaked pavement and desperation. Sam glanced back, ready to see if they'd been followed. Keep moving, Fiona urged, and they dashed down the alley. The echo of their footsteps was drowned by a distant honking and the hum of the city, a world away from the chaos inside. Where do we go? Sam gasped, adrenaline making his heart thunder. The envelope weighed heavily in his pocket, a reminder of the risk they were taking. We need to lay low, she said, breathless but focused. We can't go home, they'll look there first. There's the old bookstore across the way, Sam suggested, pointing to the fading neon signs. They're usually closed, but maybe we can hide in the back. Fiona nodded, determination settling on her face. The weight of what they were entangled in struck like a thunderbolt. They were in deeper than they had ever imagined. As they crouched behind the bookstore's entrance, the reality hit Sam hard. He had crossed a line, an invisible threshold that set them on a path they couldn't turn back from. What if they find us? Fiona whispered, eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. They might, he said, steeling himself. But we can't let that stop us. We're not just fighting for us now. We're fighting for everyone. His words hung in the air, electrifying yet terrifying. But behind their fear, a flame of rebellion flickered alive. Just as they began to breathe again, distant sirens sliced through the silence, growing louder, closing in. Would they have enough time to figure out their next move? In the wire of tension between fear and the spark of justice, everything was about to change. What awaited them as they pressed forward? As the sirens echoed through Maple Grove, Sam felt every nerve in his body thrum with anxiety. They ducked into the dusty shadows of the bookstore, the scent of old paper wrapping around them like a cloak. He glanced nervously at Fiona, who was visibly trembling. This wasn't just a fight anymore, it was survival. Sam, what if they find us? Fiona's voice was barely a whisper, tinged with fear that tugged at Sam's heart. The weight of their mission crashed heavily upon his shoulders. We'll think of something, he assured her, though uncertainty gnawed at him. We can't let their fear keep us from acting. Their hearts raced in sync, pounding like a war drum in the quiet space of the bookstore. Outside, the sirens grew louder, the shadows of authority drawing closer. He remembered all those faces from town, the mother battling foreclosure, the father struggling to finish repairs on his home. This fight was much larger than either of them. Are you ready? He asked Fiona, grounding himself amid the whirlwind. We need to head for the back exit, keep moving. She nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. Let us do it. They crept through the aisles, books towering over them as they ducked low. Each step was measured, silence hanging thick in the air. Finally, they reached the back door, the rusty hinges creaking slightly as Sam pushed gently against it. He glanced out, heart racing when he didn't see any signs of danger. Go. He urged, holding the door open for Fiona. They slipped through, stepping into the uncertain safety of the alley. The sounds of the sirens faded into chaos, replaced by distant murmurs from the crowd that spilled into the street, curiosity mingling with fear. They moved quickly, sticking close to the walls as they navigated their way back towards the diner. We need to warn the others, Sam said, adrenaline fueling his urgency. I hope they haven't left yet, Fiona added, anxiety creeping back into her voice. As they rounded the corner, the diner lay just ahead, a scene of disarray, patrons shifting nervously, some whispered, others stared. Sam's pulse quickened. What had happened in their absence? He could feel the protective instinct within him surge. There. Fiona grabbed his arm, pointing to a small group of familiar faces. Sam recognized Claire, a single mother with a fierce spirit, from their meetings. She stood with a few others, exchanging frantic whispers. Let us go. Sam urged, pulling Fiona along, urgency blazing within him. Claire. He shouted as they approached. She turned, eyes widening with relief. You're back. What happened? There was a man looking for us. We escaped, but it's serious. We need to leave before they search here. The urgency in his voice triggered a ripple of worry through the group gathered outside the diner. Claire stepped forward, gripping Sam by the shoulders. We can't run forever, Sam. This isn't just about escaping, they'll come for us, no matter where we go. No, listen. He said, panic edging at his voice. We can't let fear dictate our choices anymore. We have to act. I want to let them silence us, Fiona added, stepping beside Sam with fierce conviction in her tone. The group's expressions changed from fear to an ember of determination igniting within their hearts. How? Claire pressed. "We have evidence," Sam said, pulling the envelope from his pocket. "This man he used to work for the bank. He handed over details about the bank's illegal practices, everything we need to expose them." Gasps mixed with whispers spread through the gathering, their hope flaring alive, but a shadow of doubt lingered. "Sam, do you know what you are asking?" Claire's voice wavered, heart anchoring with the reality of what it meant to put their lives on the line. "It's time," he declared, a surge of confidence filling him. "This isn't just about us anymore. We have a chance to make a change for everyone in this town. If we stand together, we can't fail. We can take this to the media and put the pressure on them." Excitement crackled through the group, but another voice rose from the corner, a man Sam recognized, Oliver, a stout figure with a slow, contemplative nature. "And if they come after us in retaliation? What then?" He felt a silence descend upon them, the question heavy and haunting. "Then we fight back," Sam said, "with everything we've got. All of us together." People began murmuring in agreement, the whirlwind of emotion spiraling into a movement. Sam glanced at Fiona, and he could see the fire glimmering in her eyes, a mix of determination and hope, her worry briefly silenced by action, by purpose. "All right, let's south move to the park," Claire suggested. "It's more open and we can work out our plan there. We'll need to strategize how to present this evidence safely." They moved as one, a jagged force of solidarity with every heartbeat humming through the group. The park loomed ahead, bathed in the golden light of a setting sun, a backdrop to what felt like the dawn of an awakening. With each step they took, Sam felt the tide shift. They were no longer just a few individuals struggling against a system, they were a collective force, bound by a shared mission. Fear no longer had a claim on them because they weren't just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for everyone affected by the oppressive practices of the bank. "Once we're at the park, we have to act quickly before they realize we're on the move," Sam instructed, the urgency set like a march of warriors preparing for battle. As they reached the open space, the golden light wrapped around them, illuminating their resolve, casting shadows of hope upon the path they had chosen. And in this moment, Sam realized something deep within him. Change was no longer a distant dream but a fierce, undeniable tide bearing down upon the town of Maple Grove. He turned to face his friends, their faces aglow with determination, and he felt the fire of purpose ignite inside him. Whatever lay ahead, they wouldn't face it alone. They were in this together, ready to spark the flame of change, and nothing would extinguish it now. "Together!" he shouted, raising his fist high. Every voice erupted into a chorus, unified, triumphantly echoing through the park, "Together!" This was just the beginning of their crusade. It was time to reclaim their dignity, to stand firm, and to expose the truth that had long been buried beneath layers of deceit. No matter the cost, they were ready to fight. Now more than ever, Sam felt the swell of hope, poised and unwavering. And as their voices rang out like a battle cry against injustice, he knew they would not back down. They couldn't. This was their moment. And the world would hear them. You need to subscribe now to our channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Let's spread this message far and wide.